Success, in its highest and truest form, does not begin with money, connections, or favorable circumstances. It begins in the mind of the individual who dares to believe. The man who achieves is not the one who waits for proof, but the one who proceeds as though his vision were already real. He acts with a calm assurance that comes not from external validation, but from the power of inner conviction. To act as you've made it is to embody this principle, to walk, speak, decide, and work from the assumption that you already are the person you intend to become. This is not fantasy, and it is not arrogance. It is a deliberate use of one of the greatest faculties man possesses, faith fused with imagination. Every great builder, inventor, and leader who has reshaped history did so not by reacting to the world as it was, but by first creating a reality within and aligning every thought and step with that vision. Faith, when properly understood, is not just a religious term, it is a psychological force. It is the ability to see the invisible and act upon it as if it were visible. The man who succeeds is the one who does not say, when I have the means, I will act. He says, because I have already seen it in my mind, I must act. That the act becomes the proof, not the result. There is a law that governs the mind, and it is this: what you continually impress upon your consciousness will eventually express itself in your experience. When you act as though you've already succeeded, you send a clear message to your subconscious mind. This is who I am. That message becomes the foundation of your decisions, your energy, your persistence, and ultimately your outcomes. But this power of assumption is not simply about pretending. It is not about make-believe. It is about internal transformation. When a man begins to act from faith, real, burning, focused faith, his internal chemistry changes. His body responds with new levels of energy. His eyes shine differently. His voice carries weight. People notice, not because they are told he is successful, but because they feel the presence of someone who believes in himself so strongly, they begin to believe in him too. History shows us many such examples. The great industrialists of the early 20th century, the titans of invention and enterprise, did not begin with proof. They began with desire, and that desire became faith. That faith was translated into action, and the action summoned results. Henry Ford, when told he could not build an 8-cylinder engine, simply replied that it would be done. Why? Because in his mind, it already was. That is the power of assumption. That is the power of acting as if you've made it. The average man waits for external approval. He waits to be told he is ready. He waits to be discovered. But the man who understands the power of assumption discovers himself. He places the burden of proof not on others, but on his own will. He refuses to act like a beggar, asking life for favors. Instead, he acts like a master, calm, resolved, and unshakable, because he knows that the mind, when directed by faith, is the most powerful force in creation. But such faith is not passive. It must be fed daily. The man who desires to act as though he has already made it must fill his mind with the vision of what he intends to become. He must write it down. He must speak it aloud. He must visualize it so clearly and so often that it becomes more real to him than the facts of his current circumstance. It is this relentless mental repetition that hardens belief into faith and faith into action. There will be doubt. There will be days when the world refuses to reflect your vision. That is when you must persist. That is when the assumption must grow even stronger. You must train yourself to ignore the external and double down on the internal. Faith does not falter when the evidence is absent. Faith intensifies. And when you continue to act in spite of appearances, when you continue to carry yourself as a man who has already made it, circumstances bend, people shift, opportunities emerge. Why? Because the world responds to conviction. It responds to the man who no longer asks if he will make it, but who knows that he already has. To act as if you've made it is not arrogance. It is not deception. It is creative power in its purest form. It is the act of stepping into your future self and living from that place long before others can see it. And when you do, your inner world and outer world must eventually align. You are not hoping, you are commanding. You are not wishing, you are becoming. Understand this truth. Every man who ever changed his destiny did so by acting from the faith of his desire, not the facts of his environment. And if you would rise to greatness, you must do the same. Speak it, think it, walk it, live it. Let no circumstance shake the image you hold within. Assume it with such fire that the world has no choice but to match your belief. This is the foundation. This is the secret. This is how you act as if you've made it. And in time, how you truly do. To act as though you've made it, you must first know what it is you are acting toward. No man can become great by accident, and no success was ever achieved without a clear, burning aim. The mind, like a powerful engine, requires direction. Without a destination, its power is wasted in confusion and contradiction. But once a man fixes his purpose with unshakable clarity, once he defines a definite chief aim, he sets into motion unseen forces that begin to align people, circumstances, and events with that purpose. The starting point of all achievement is a clear goal, and the foundation of sustained action is a self-defeat built to match it. When a man establishes a definite chief aim, he gives himself a target for the full expression of his thoughts, decisions, and energy. He no longer drifts hoping to arrive at success by chance. He becomes intentional. Every word he speaks, every step he takes, every risk he embraces is weighed against the standard of his aim. This clarity of direction creates a magnetic pull. Opportunities that once went unnoticed suddenly appear. Ideas that once seemed out of reach now feel possible. Why? Because the man is no longer scattered, he is focused. But clarity of aim is not enough on its own. A man may know where he wants to go, yet fail to believe he deserves to arrive. That is why the second part of this principle is equally vital, the self position. You must begin to see yourself not as who you are today, but as the person who would naturally achieve your aim. If your goal is to become a leader of industry, then you must begin to think, speak, and carry yourself as that leader would. This is not self-deception, it is self-creation. The image you hold of yourself sets the ceiling for your performance. If your image is small, your actions will be small. If your image is powerful, bold, and purposeful, your results will rise to match. The human mind cannot hold contradictory images for long. If you're acting like a man who has made it, but still thinking like a man who is uncertain, hesitant, or inferior, the tension will eventually cause collapse. Either your thoughts will rise to meet your actions, or your actions will fall to match your doubts. The wise man resolves this conflict early. He reshapes his inner picture to match the life he is determined to create. He says, I am the kind of man who builds great things. I am the kind of man who commands respect. I am the kind of man who cannot be denied. And he feeds that image daily with thought, language, and purposeful behavior. This alignment between a man's aim and his self-position is the key to consistent progress. It removes internal conflict. It eliminates the hesitation that plagues the average man. When you no longer wonder whether you are capable, when you no longer question if you are worthy, your energy is no longer divided. Your actions become deliberate. You no longer hope, you expect. And that expectation becomes the invisible hand that shapes your results. The world does not respond to wishful thinking. It responds to identity. People follow those who carry certainty. Doors open for those who walk with purpose. Wealth flows to those who act as if they already belong in its presence. This is why it is not enough to say, I want to succeed. You must say, I am a success. You must think and feel and act from the place of already being what you intend to be. The goal must not feel far off. It must feel like a natural unfolding of who you are becoming each day. This transformation begins with decision. You must decide, once and for all, what you want. The man who is vague about his goals is vague in action and weak in results. But once you declare your chief aim, once you write it down and see it before you daily, you begin to reprogram your subconscious mind. That aim becomes a point of focus, and your mind, when given consistent attention, will begin to identify and create the behaviors, habits, and opportunities necessary to fulfill it. Repetition is the mother of belief. The more you see your goal, the more you speak of it, the more you act in alignment with it, the more real it becomes. And as your self-position strengthens to match your vision, you find yourself making decisions you once feared. You take bolder steps. You demand more of yourself, not because you're pretending to be something you're not, but because you're revealing what you truly are. Many men live beneath their potential, not because they lack ability, but because they never had the courage to define their aim and build an identity around it. They wait for someone to give them permission to rise, but the man who acts as though he's made it does not ask for permission. He creates the version of himself that matches his destiny and steps into it fully. This is not done in arrogance. It is done in clarity and responsibility. If you would lead, if you would build, if you would achieve something of lasting value, you must carry yourself with the dignity and confidence of one who knows where he is going and who he must become to get there. You must form the self-identity of the man who has already arrived and then live in accordance with it. Every hour, every conversation, every decision, when your aim is clear and your self-position supports it, you become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easy, but because you have become resolved. And that resolve, the alignment of desire, belief, and identity, is what causes mountains to move and dreams to become reality. The difference between those who succeed and those who merely dream lies in one word: persistence. It is not the man with the brightest ideas or the most noble intentions who changes the course of his life. It is the man who acts and continues to act long after the initial excitement has faded. To act as though you've already made it is to persist with a kind of relentless determination that does not wait for ideal conditions. It is to step forward with confidence when the path is unclear, and to move with purpose even when the world offers no applause. There is a tragic mistake made by many. They believe that success will come once they feel ready, once the fear is gone, once they have the perfect plan. But readiness is a myth. The man who waits for fear to leave will wait forever. The truth is this: courage comes after action, not before. And the man who acts as if he's already made it has trained himself to move, to persist, to keep pressing forward, as though failure were impossible, even when doubt whispers otherwise. Persistence is the application of faith in action. It is the visible expression of invisible belief. Every man claims to believe in his dreams when he's inspired. But when difficulties arise, when the money runs low, when criticism appears, when progress slows, it is only the persistent who remain. The man who has adopted the mindset of having already arrived does not stop when things get hard. He expects the struggle, and he persists through it with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the outcome is already his. The power of persistence is not in doing something once or twice. It is in doing it over and over, improving, adapting, refining, until the result is inevitable. It is the mental fortitude to keep showing up when results seem invisible. Just as a seed does not sprout the moment it is planted, so too will your efforts require time to bear fruit. The persistent man understands this. He does not grow impatient because he is not driven by immediate gratification. He is driven by identity. He is already the man who has made it. And so he continues acting from that place, whether the world agrees or not. Every step taken in faith builds momentum. The man who takes daily, disciplined action, even small action, creates a force that compounds. What starts as a trickle becomes a stream, and what was once a stream becomes a river that no obstacle can block. It is through persistence that ideas become reality, skills become mastery, and desire becomes achievement. There will be voices, internal and external, that suggest you quit. There will be moments where it seems easier to retreat, to accept less, to settle for what is comfortable. But the persistent man does not negotiate with limitation. He does not lower his standard to match his mood. Instead, he reminds himself of who he is and what he is becoming. He stands firm in the vision he has assumed, and he moves forward with the tenacity of someone who refuses to be denied. Persistence, at its core, is about responsibility. It is the decision to take full ownership of your future, regardless of circumstances. It is saying, I will not stop. I will not yield. I will not allow temporary resistance to dictate permanent outcomes. The world respects this kind of determination. Doors open for the man who knocks, and opportunities arise for the man who keeps showing up. Life yields its riches to those who prove they will not go away until they are given what they came for. The persistent man understands that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every setback is a stepping stone, every rejection a redirection. He is not crushed by mistakes. He learns from them. He adjusts. He retools. But he does not retreat. Why? Because he is not acting like someone trying to become successful. He is acting like someone who is already successful, simply walking the path to its manifestation. To persist is to hold the line when others let go. It is to show strength, not only in moments of triumph, but also in the long, silent hours when no one is watching. It is to keep your standards high, your actions aligned, and your heart anchored in the belief that your vision is worth every ounce of effort you give it. And that is the essence of acting as though you've already made it. You do not wait for recognition to act like someone of value. You do not wait for rewards to act with discipline. You do not wait for proof to believe. You persist, not because success is guaranteed, but because you have decided that it is yours. The outcome becomes inevitable, not because of luck or timing, but because you have refused to stop short of the finish line. Understand this. Persistence backed by belief is an unstoppable force. It transforms men from ordinary to exceptional. It takes average beginnings and turns them into extraordinary destinies. But only for those who act, only for those who persist. So take your vision, carry it with you each day, and act as though it were already real. Let every action reflect your commitment to that future. Be relentless, be steady, be bold. For the man who persists with faith and purpose will not only act as though he's made it, he will make it without question.